Hi, welcome to Overthinking Entrepreneur. I'm Megan, and I've had a successful online business for a few years now, and I think I overthought probably about 90% of my decisions along the way. Honestly, I just overthought whether I should say 90% or pretty much every decision in this intro. So if you find that relatable, you are definitely in the right place. In this podcast, I will help you get out of overthinking and into action so that your online business can finally start growing. Are you making enough value deposits before you try to withdraw? So I'm excited to share this analogy with you. It's something that I think is really powerful and will help you understand maybe why you're not getting the response from your audience that you want, especially if you have started branching out into your cold market and people who don't already know and love you in real life. I'm excited for this one. It is another one of my favorite examples I've always used, much like the seed planting analogy from a few episodes back. If you have not heard that one yet, I would highly recommend going to check it out. But value deposits are a term. I don't know if I invented this or if I heard it so long ago and forgot. As far as I know, I invented it, not in the sense, people call value. I don't know. Either way, using this specific terminology. If I learned it from someone over the years, thank you. And I'm sorry I have not acknowledged you. I genuinely don't remember at this point. But basically, what you want to think about is when you are trying to grow a business on social media, you need to make sure that you are depositing value, which I will explain more in a second, before you try and withdraw sales or even engagement a lot of times. Many people have this idea that they can get started with an online business and they can show up and they can start posting and they can start selling and people should buy. And then they get frustrated and they say, no one is supporting me, no one is buying, no one will even engage, what's going on? And they're so frustrated that people aren't giving what it is that they're looking for. But doing this is kind of equivalent to walking into a bank that you don't bank with. You don't have an account there, you don't have any money, and you walk in and you say, hi, I'd like to make a withdrawal, please. And they're like, okay, let's have your info. Turns out you don't have any money in this bank. If you have not put money here, you can't take any out. And it doesn't work exactly the same when it comes to your online business, but I still think it's helpful visual to understand, because when you show up on social media and you expect to just make sales, but you haven't put in that work of building credibility, building trust, building relationships with people, helping them understand who you are and caring about you and showing them that you care first and why you're doing this business and so many different things. You're basically just showing up online and saying, hi, I have a business, so you owe me engagement and you have to buy from me because I decided to start a business. And that's not how it works. You need to make sure that you are making those deposits long before you ever expect to be able to make a withdrawal. So when it comes to your friends and family, you've been making deposits with them all through the years, hopefully, unless you're just an absolutely awful friend or family member, but you have done things for them. You've been there for them. You've listened to them. You've laughed together. They know that you care about them. You've helped them move. You've picked up groceries for them, right? You've done things for them to build this reciprocal relationship. And even then, people who know and love you don't owe you sales. Just because you have simply made deposits with someone, it's not an direct transaction, right? It's not like you can show up to someone and say, hi, I'm depositing value with you and therefore you will owe me a sale next week. It doesn't work that way. But in order to ever expect to be able to make a withdrawal, there needs to be something to pull from. And that is where these value deposits come from. So on social media, when you start connecting with people, they might even be people that you technically know. But, I graduated high school over 10 years ago. And so there's plenty of people that I technically know because we went to high school together. But if they were to add me on social media and then instantly expect me to buy from them without a word from over 10 years ago, especially if we weren't even really friends in high school, I'd be like, excuse me, you're trying to withdraw when there's nothing to withdraw from, And I'm sure you've had this happen where a stranger shows up and thinks that you should buy from them simply because they have a business and they've decided to ask you about it. Or maybe you are the admin or owner of some sort of space where a business owner has showed up and said, well, your people need my thing. I should be able to market it here. And you're like, hold on. I put in a ton of work to build this community and to keep it safe. Who are you to think that you can come in here and just start selling to my people? You have not made value deposits. And if you've ever gone into a Facebook group with the intention of growing your network and thinking you'll make a bunch of sales and did not feel welcome there, but then you found that there was someone else with the same kind of business as you, or maybe a different one, but someone else with a business who is welcome in that community and does have customers and is sometimes allowed to talk about their business, it's probably because they put in the time to become a valuable member of that community. They made their deposits. When you just show up and feel entitled to engagement and sales, people don't like that. I don't like that. Do you like that when someone shows up and just feels entitled to your money, or that you have to engage with them just because they're doing something? It's mutual, right? It needs to be something that I care about and that I want to participate in. And so this is where we really need to be mindful of how you're showing up on social media and making sure that you're not expecting to just take if you haven't given first. So when I say giving and when I say value deposits, let's talk a little bit more about what those mean, because I know that can be one of those really confusing terms. And I want to make sure that we're clear on what's going on here. So when I say value, there's a few different things that this can look like, kind of a few different forms that this can take. But essentially what we're doing here is we're going to take some time getting clear on your ideal client. And your ideal client is basically the type of person who is most likely to buy from you. And this is something that you'll need to sit down and figure out based on what you sell, your own experience with it, with the thing, your background, your lifestyle. All these different things will all kind of come together to make it so that there's a group of people that will be the perfect fit to purchase from you. And once you figure that out, then you can really think about, okay, what do I have in common with these people? Or what can I do? What kind of content can I create that's going to make them want to follow me? So an easy way would be to teach or offer some sort of support. And there's so many ways you can do this. Okay, don't get hung up on my very first example. But let's say that you have overcome something in your life. Let's say that you really, really, really struggled with confidence for most of your life, and now you are a pretty confident person. Then that could be the value that you offer, could be sharing your own journey with confidence for inspiration. People love hearing about what's possible and what's worked for other people. And then also just kind of sharing your tips and helping people understand what you did so that they can then do the same thing, or at least their own version of the same thing. So if there's something that you have overcome or gone through, or something that you are very knowledgeable about or just really good at, you can help other people learn to become better at it and do the same thing. And that's a great way to build a following on social media. I just started following. I'm trying to be reasonable with it, but I am trying to step up and learn to cook a little bit better. I am not a good cook, and I never have been. And for years, I fend on my own for breakfast and lunch. And my husband basically made all of our dinners. And if I was in charge, it was going to be something pretty easy. Well, with his new work schedule, it just has happened that I need to step up and start making some more dinners. And so I am trying to learn. And so I am following some accounts from people that share recipes and inspiration and things, because this is an area that I want to learn about. So I'm actively wanting to follow and engage with their content because they are providing something that I am interested in learning more about. So that is one really good way that you can offer value deposits. If there's something that you are knowledgeable about and you would enjoy teaching other people or helping them kind of accomplish what you have accomplished. And another big thing to keep in mind here is that you do not need to be like the expert among all experts in order to teach something. You simply need to be a few steps ahead of someone else, and then you're teaching those people that are a few steps behind you. You're not trying to say, I can teach the whole world. I would never say, I follow a few Instagram cooking accounts, so I think I'm great, and I think that now, I should be on Top Chef. Like, obviously not. But there's some people who are even further behind than me, who maybe they just found out that their husband has a new work schedule and they're about to have to start making some more dinners, and they're panicking. And I can help them calm down and make a plan. I can share with them some of my go-to meals and things that have really been working for us so that we don't eat fast food every night. So see how that works? I'm not going to do that, by the way, but it's just an example of what I could do. You do not need to have arrived or have every single answer or be like the world's foremost expert in a topic in order to teach it on social media. All you're doing is sharing your own experiences with other people who are stuck where you were stuck before and helping them get to where you are now as best you can. So that is one really good option when it comes to offering value, but it is not the only one. Many people get hung up on that and think that they have to teach something, and it is a really effective strategy. But it's not the only one. And if that's not your style, that is completely okay. So some other things that you can do. You can help people know that they're not alone. You can be really relatable and honest with people and help them feel a little bit better about their struggles. So right now, I have a toddler. I have a 2-year-old. And it's hard, right? It's really hard. And I am following some within reason. There's a lot of like parent influencers that aren't my style, but there are some people that I follow who have kids around the same age as mine. And I love, first of all, getting to see their kids and relating because, seeing what's similar and what's different amongst our kids depending on their ages and personalities. And so it's fun to kind of see their experiences and see how they're moving through the same things that we are. But then also many of the ones that I follow are very honest about real life, and they talk about the struggles and the times that it's hard. And it helps me know that I'm not the only one, because sometimes, especially as a parent, you constantly beat yourself up for what you could be doing better or what you could be doing more of. And it always feels like it's never enough. And so having those people that are in it with you and roughly the same stage of the journey with you, and hearing them talk about the downs and the hard times, it's really valuable to me right now. And so that is another way that you can provide value, is just letting people know they're not alone and being relatable and being honest about the struggles that you might be going through right now. I am also exploring the possibility that I might have ADHD. And some of you have probably listened to this podcast and are like, yeah, no kidding. But I have, there's now some accounts that I've been following of people with ADHD, and hearing about their experiences and their perspectives has been really valuable to me. So they aren't necessarily teaching. They're not psychiatrists. They're not qualified to teach me, but it is very helpful and relatable to hear about them, what they've gone through, and relate and know that I'm not alone in the way that I feel sometimes. So that's another really great way that you can provide value. Another one could be laughter. I love following people that make me laugh on social media. I assume most people do. I mean, if you don't, I'm curious why. Tell me, why would you not want to follow someone that makes you laugh on social media? I'm genuinely, I'm not asking that in like a judgy way. I just am perplexed by it because I love to laugh. But people that make me laugh, that is valuable. So you can absolutely just be someone who, if you have a naturally funny personality, there's certain people who they can tell you the most boring story in the world, but it's funny because the way that they told it. If you have that kind of personality, if humor is a big thing for you, that is a great way to provide value. You can also provide inspiration. You can provide your own inspiration, or you can also provide inspiration that doesn't necessarily come from you. So let's say that you love to interview people who've been successful and help them share their story. That can be a really great way to provide value, but you're just the interviewer. You're not necessarily the one giving the tips. You're more so facilitating. So that can be another really good way to do that. Maybe you create a group that people love and find really helpful. Maybe I could go on and on and on and on with this. There are so many ways that you can provide value on social media. So one of the first things I would ask yourself is, what do I like? What do I like consuming on social media? What are the things that I enjoy? And then how can I put my own spin on that? What can I do that comes from me? And I do have a program coming up that's going to really dive into helping you figure out your value and what this looks like. And I'll be able to help you one-on-one if this is something that you struggle with. But just figuring out, what could that value be that I can offer in my content that is completely free. It is available publicly, or at least in a group that's free to join, and where people can come and start to connect with me and just be drawn to what it is that I'm putting out there and what I have to offer, because it's genuinely valuable for them. Think about people that you have followed that you found their content valuable for one reason or another. You're probably a lot more likely to hear about their business than from someone who you don't feel that way. So making these deposits first makes it so that people are open to actually hearing what it is that you're talking about. It does not guarantee a sale. Remember, this is not like an exchange. There should be no expectations. You should not be thinking okay, I just need to deposit 6 more values and then I'll be guaranteed a sale. It does not work that way, okay? But in order to even be ready to try and ask for the sale from someone, you need to make sure that you've made enough deposits, or else you're going to make them really mad. And I can tell you that typically, if you've made value deposits, if you ask someone if they're interested in what you sell, even if they're not, it won't be that bad. It won't be a big deal. They'll just say, oh, I can't afford it right now, or, no, thank you, I'm not interested, but thanks for thinking of me. Something nice like that. If you try and reach out to a stranger where you have not made enough value deposits and you're just trying to withdraw from thin air, you're probably going to get ignored or possibly told off, or, who knows what, depending on who the person is and what kind of day that they're having. So it's really important that you make sure that you're focused on making these deposits before you try to withdraw, like I said. And then the other side of this is some people want value deposits. Some people want relationship deposits. And that is, I don't know if it's the best term to use, but it's what I'm using. And some people want both. And there's really no way to know for certain. Like, there's no magical formula. Each person is a little bit different. And each person's probably a little bit different in terms of what you sell. There are things where the type of deposits I would need to buy a pair of earrings versus invest in a big coaching package are pretty different, So it really depends a lot on what you sell and how you're trying to grow your business and your audience and all kinds of different factors. But alongside the value deposits, which is basically what you're creating in your content. So whether, this podcast is a way that I like to deposit value right into your convenient little earbuds right every week. So this can be your content. This can be your podcast, your YouTube, your blog, your emails that you send out with tips. Anything like that would kind of fall under the value deposit, as long as it is something that your goal in sharing it is to help other people in some way. And that's kind of what you always want to ask yourself. Like, when I'm making this post, how can it help others? Could it put a smile on their face? Could they learn something? Could it help them get unstuck today? Could it just make them laugh when they really need it? Could it help them take that pressure off themselves and know that they're doing a good job today? Like, there's so many different ways that you can show up and give value. And when you put in that work to really figure out who your ideal client is, it becomes fun of like, how can I do something nice for my ideal client today? What can I do? How can I just give and try to help them and make them feel good in some way? But then on the other side of that, you have relationship deposits. And so this is things like actually getting to know someone. And this will vary quite a bit depending on who it is that you're talking about. I can tell you that there are people that I feel like I have a solid relationship with, and I feel like I know them pretty well, but I have never spoken to them one-on-one in Messenger. So this totally can be talking to people one-on-one in Messenger or the DMs or, wherever, but it doesn't have to be necessarily. So when you make relationship deposits, these would be things like commenting on someone else's post. And these would be things like replying to their stories, talking to them in Messenger, showing that you have paid attention can be another really big one. If you talk to someone and you bring up something that they posted about a week ago, they might be like, oh, wow, you really are paying attention. You really care. Like, that can go a long way with helping people. And I'm not sharing any of this to try and please don't go and use this in a slimy way. Like, I'm not saying to start tracking your interactions with people and think like, okay, like I said earlier, made a few deposits today, time to ask for the sale now. That's not how I want you to take this, but I do want you to just ask yourself, am I making those relationship deposits? So are you engaging with their posts? Are you talking to them? Are you going out of your way to tell them that they look really nice? If you see a post of them in the newsfeed, are you telling them you love their dress, or are you just thinking of it quietly? Because the more that you can leave that comment and say, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with that dress, each of those interactions is a relationship deposit. And then relationship deposits also happen when you share things that let people connect with you and get to know you in your content. So these can kind of blur together. You can totally be making a relationship deposit while you're also doing a value deposit in your post. Sometimes the same piece of content can do both, but sometimes they are separate. So if, for example, I do a live video and I give you some tips, that's probably more of a value deposit unless I do something. I do tend to chat about my personal life when I'm live. So, it's possible the lines get a little blurry, but for the most part, that's going to be just a value deposit. But then let's say that I make a post and I talk about, what I was like as a kid. And you get to read it and you get to learn more about me and you get to picture little Megan, picture Clark, he looks a lot like I did when I was a kid. But, you get to think about me as a kid and you feel more of that connection and you feel more like you understand what makes me tick, that also counts as a relationship deposit. So it's things that let people get to know you and connect with you in some way, and then also you showing interest in other people. And I will tell you, I think this must just be something that I do pretty naturally, because I tried to read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I should pick it back up and I should try and power through and maybe just like skip over some of those chapters and try and read the whole thing again. But I bought it years ago because everyone was raving about how it was game changer. You have to read it. And I was reading it going, yeah, like what? Someone needs to tell you this? Like, to me, it all felt so common sense and so things that I do on my own anyway, but be interested in other people. Like, yeah, that's, you shouldn't need a whole book to tell you to be interested in other people if you want to build a relationship with them. So, finding those ways to become interested in others and get to know them as much as you can. And the beauty of this is that when you start from the beginning and you figure out your ideal client and you start to grow your audience and you're creating this valuable content with the idea of helping them in mind, and then you're getting to know them and you're building a relationship with these new people and you're having conversations and you're seeing what they're struggling with and what's going well for them and what isn't, it gives you more ideas for value content that you can make and value deposits you can have. And it all just starts to feed together, and it all gets a lot easier, in my opinion, when you put your focus on this. So instead of thinking like, how can I make a sale? Why aren't people engaging? What do I need to do? And it's all very I focused, and why aren't people buying from me? And why is no one supporting me? And what's going on? And I'm so frustrated. If you can make that shift instead to, have I made enough deposits this month to really be expecting sales? And it's not just it's a this week, it's this month, it's also ongoing, like in your business as a whole. Have you made enough deposits to have people be willing to check out what it is that you're doing? But just remember, some people are going to need to see a lot of value deposit style content. Some people are going to need you to make a lot of relationship deposits. And most people are going to need a little bit of both before they're ready to buy. So I want you to just ask yourself, how am I doing when it comes to my deposits? Are my accounts pretty empty right now? What's the balance right now in my value bank account and my relationship bank account? And I know sometimes in the summer, in particular, they can both be running a little bit low because you're like, well, people aren't engaging on social media and I'm so busy, so you're not spending as much time engaging with others as you normally would be. And maybe you stop doing as much of your value content because it feels like people are too busy and not engaging as much. And then, it all just feeds into this whole idea that summer is really slow. And it can be, but for a lot of different reasons. But it doesn't have to inherently be slow. But many times we slow down in the deposits, and therefore the withdrawals also just naturally slow down. So, okay, I'm going to make you stop hearing me say value and deposit and relationship now, especially deposit. Sorry about that. But I hope that this has given you a light bulb moment. I know so many of you really love the seed planting episode, and I'm hoping you'll feel the same way about this one and say, oh, now it's starting to make a lot more sense. So stay tuned and make sure that you are on my email list if this is something that you need more help with, because I am in the process of developing a new program that's really going to help you combine all of this together, actually. And we're going to talk about how to plant more seeds and how to do that effectively with making these deposits along the way. So if that is something that you think you could benefit from, hop onto my email list or make sure you're following me on social media so that you don't miss out. And I hope that this was helpful. And I would love for you to let me know, where do you think that your bank account is, your metaphorical bank account, in terms of your value deposits and your relationship deposits? And are you better at one than the other, or are you pretty good at both or pretty bad at both? Okay, talk to you next week. I hope this episode inspires you to go take action on something you have been overthinking. As much as I wish you could, you cannot think your way to success, so promise me you're going to go take some action today. Head over to overthinkingentrepreneur.com to find all the cool stuff I've made for you over the years, like my free guide to getting more social media engagement and my Facebook group, Dynamite Entrepreneurs, which has a free course on social media basics.